Episode 3. Who's covering the check? When they headed outside, Elliot surprised them all by walking straight past the food cart. Instead, he headed up to the entrance of the brightly lit Starlight restaurant, which was situated on the first floor of a swanky high-rise. He pulled open the door and took a seat in the foyer. Kevin looked a little worried as the rest of the group followed his lead. "Elliot, why don't we go back and grab some takeout? This place is too expensive." "There aren't even any prices on this menu. If you're not careful, you could end up having to pay a fortune." Niall hadn't expected Elliot to take them to such a smart place either. None of them could figure out what he was thinking. "Elliot, did I get to you? Are you giving up on yourself?" Ryan laughed sinisterly as he continued. "This place is definitely out of your price range. Even I don't dare to rack up a bill here often. You're saying you're going to pay for our meals, right? Let me make it clear. If you can't afford it, I don't have the money to pay for everyone." Ryan saw Elliot's attempt to ask Kate out as an embarrassing public failure that none of them wanted to be associated with. It looked like Elliot was making this grand gesture now to try and save face. But you needed money for that. Ryan was more convinced than ever that Elliot was too naive to know his place. "As I said, this is my treat. I'll be the one paying." Elliot could hear the mockery in Ryan's words, but he didn't feel like explaining himself, so he just waved his hand and called the waiter over to seat them. As they started browsing their menus, Elliot said casually, "Feel free to order whatever you like." Kevin and Niall shared a concerned look, worried about what Elliot thought he was up to. But seeing that he was insisting, they didn't say anything more. If he really couldn't afford it, then they would all just have to figure something out together. Ryan spoke to the waiter in a calm manner as he picked up the menu. He ordered a few specialties, including 4 large Australian lobsters and 2 bottles of high-end locally produced wine. Kevin and Niall were scared witless. It looked like Ryan had decided to be ruthless, deliberately trying to cost Elliot a fortune. The lobsters and wine alone would generate an astronomical check. As they were working up the courage to try and dissuade him, though they heard Elliot say to the waiter, "As he wishes." Since Elliot seemed fine with it, they had to go with the flow. After they had all placed their orders, Ryan's eyes suddenly lit up. He stood and shouted across the restaurant, "What a coincidence! Lily, are you dining here too?" The 3 of them turned their heads. They saw Lily, the prettiest girl in school, and her 2 best friends coming down the elevator from the 2nd floor. Lily had an extraordinary presence and was wearing a snow-white dress. She was dazzling and stood out against the bustling customers in the foyer. Hearing Ryan's call, her eyebrows creased, and she studiously ignored him. After all, Starlight was no ordinary little restaurant. The wealthy clientele was all about etiquette and manners, so even if they were chatting, they would try to keep their voices down so as not to disturb others. Lily was disgusted and embarrassed by Ryan's brashness, so she didn't bother acknowledging him. Lily's frown softened slightly when she saw Elliot, though, and she gave him a warm smile before leaving with her friends. "Damn, Elliot, when did you meet Lily? She was smiling at you. It can't be that she fancies you, right?" Kevin gasped in disbelief. "Everyone knows how arrogant she is. She won't give men the time of day. How did you manage to get her attention?" Niall said enviously. Ryan's expression was unsettled. He didn't know how to conceal his embarrassment. He couldn't believe that Lily had ignored him, but clearly acknowledged Elliot. Humiliated, he sneered, "Get real. Lily's family owns Abbott Enterprises. People from families like that only have time for other wealthy, powerful people. How could she possibly be interested in a guy like Elliot? There's no way." "You're so cynical," retorted Kevin. Niall also disagreed with Ryan's outburst. "Times have changed, man. It's all about loving freely without boundaries now." "What do you know? Do you think fairy tales come true? The lower your status, the narrower your horizons," Ryan snorted in annoyance. "You're all overthinking it. Lily just has some class and self-restraint," Elliot said, ending the argument. He'd only met Lily once when she had dropped her meal card, and he had picked it up and returned it to her. The smile just now had been nothing more than a polite acknowledgement. He didn't expect his housemates to argue over it. It wasn't long before their meals were served. It was the first time Kevin and Niall had enjoyed such extravagant food. They said nothing as they started wolfing it down. Ryan watched the two of them with a disdainful look on his face. If it wasn't for the fact that we share a house, I'd never eat with you guys. It's as if you've never seen food before. The two of them couldn't care less what he had to say about it. They continued eating happily, even baring their teeth and grinning at him. After they had finished their meal, Elliot called the waiter over and asked for the check. Of course, sir. Your bill is $2,100. The waiter replied with a well-rehearsed smile. What? Over $2,000? Kevin jumped up in disbelief. He had thought that they would be able to settle things with $300 or $400. He had never imagined it could be so much. Holy hell. We could sell everything we own and still not be able to afford it. Niall's voice carried a frightened tone. Previously, when a bill had been more than expected, they would pool their money and treat it as an indulgence. Niall and Kevin were full of remorse. They couldn't let Elliot pay for this by himself. They should have just asked for the prices when they were ordering. They shouldn't have let Ryan order so much. Wow. Is this how the other half of the society lives? Elliot sighed. He hadn't expected it to be this expensive. Even though $2,000 was now just a drop in the ocean for him, he'd never been able to be this extravagant before, and he wasn't used to it. Seeing the Starlight restaurant filled with people, Elliot couldn't help but think, one meal costs months' worth of normal living expenses, but this place is still full of customers. From the looks of it, it's pretty easy to earn money off rich people this way. Seeing that Elliot was silent, Kevin took out his phone and scratched his head. What should we do? I only have 20 on me, but I've got 600 in my online account. Niall braced himself, took out his phone too, and said to the others, Come on, guys, let's get together what we have. I have $500. At worst, we'll just collectively eat dirt for a few days. Why are you looking at me? Ryan used a toothpick to pick his teeth as if it had nothing to do with him. I said it at the start. I'm not covering the bill on this one. Elliot looked at the waiter and, without batting an eyelid, asked, What's the average monthly turnover on this place? Sir? This was the first time the waiter had been asked about the restaurant's income, and his demeanor turned cold. Starlight caters to a select class of clientele. Gentlemen, it's time to settle your check. Let me remind you, this restaurant is fully monitored by CCTV, and we will not hesitate to have security or the police deal with the situation if necessary. Through gritted teeth, Ryan said, Elliot, you said you wanted to treat me to a meal, so I went along with it by accepting your invitation. Don't make me lose face along with you. I wanted to use this opportunity to embarrass the guy, not to end up in a police station with him. If my friends found out that I couldn't afford to pay for a meal, I'd never be able to show my face again, he thought, beginning to panic. Wait, you can't be saying we're going to jail if we can't afford it, right? Kevin was scared. Niall braced himself. Elliot, you've got to do something. We can't go to jail for something like this. Are we going to have to borrow money to get this done? Sir, would you like to swipe your card, or will you be settling with cash? The waiter urged with a displeased look. It seemed clear that Elliot couldn't afford to cover the cost, and he struggled to remain polite when people tried to get away with things like that. However, Elliot's next word shocked everyone. Stop fussing. Give me a second here. I'm trying to figure out whether I should buy this place or not.